I think in the trade union movement now, we're talking about the possibility of a general strike. In Unison today in Glasgow, our general body, the Scottish Council of Unison, is debating a motion from Glasgow branch talking about how can we develop towards having a general strike, because all these things happening to working people across the broad spectrum that we've talked about today, from disability benefits to pensions, to pay, to conditions at work, undermining industrial tribunals, all that kind of thing. All these attacks that are happening towards, we need, if you like, a massive response to that. That's not going to come through Parliament, not with the organisation we have at the moment. That's quite clear. Nobody's saying it will. We have to do it ourselves. It has to be from the bottom up, through collective action, through direct action, whatever way we can, through demands on Parliament, but also doing it ourselves in the most effective way possible. And I think, you know, we need to be active, we need to be collective, and direct action whenever necessary.
Yeah, in terms of do we have direct actions against evictions? Well, I'd just say look at US Uncut and look at what's happened in Spain, where there have been direct actions to stop people losing their houses when they've been foreclosed illegally, and my goodness, those people are still in their houses. That direct action paid off. We shouldn't be squeamish about direct action. No one's given us anything. We've had to fight for every single thing that makes this a civilized country, actually, and we have to fight to keep those things and fight for something better on top of it. And quite frankly, I mean, Christ, I've changed myself to trains and buses. You've seen that thing Atos kills in London? I did that. I went out with spray paint. I then emailed the chief legal officer at Atos and told him what I'd done and said, prosecute me, I'm still waiting. That's 18 months ago, right? These people, you know, they're bullies, right? And do you know something? I don't have that much deference or respect for what are allegedly the democratic institutions of this country, right? They may have started out like that, or they may not have done, right? I think it's up to people to make up their own minds about that. But they've been subverted, right? They've been debased, they've been taken over, and let's be brutally honest, they serve the interests of a very small number of people. They don't serve our interests, right? They may pretend that they do. That's the gloss on it to keep us quiet and keep us happy, right? Let's be honest. What we're given, right, in these democratic institutions is the right to discuss very vigorously a very small number of issues. But step outside that box and you'll soon be shut up. Look at that person who was on Question Time last week when Owen Jones was absolutely laying into Ian Duncan Smith, sadly not literally, right? And a disabled person protested from the audience about Atos. Shut it down, shut down that discussion. That's democracy, ha ha, right? There's very little democracy in this country. We have to take it back and form our own democracy.
There's another issue in there, Sasha, isn't there, which is whether or not you feel comfortable as an activist in encouraging the vulnerable people that you represent to put themselves in a position where they could be vulnerable to prosecution, to all sorts of legal retribution. Are you comfortable with that?
Well, see, I don't take that on myself as I don't lead anybody. I'm part of a movement. Secondly, I'd resist this label of disabled people as being vulnerable. No thanks.
Sorry, I wasn't meaning disabled people.
Right, generally, don't take that label on. Don't take it on, right? Just because you are being hit hard doesn't mean you're a victim, right? You can be victimized, but that doesn't mean that you're a victim. You have to fight it, right? And I wouldn't ask anybody to do something that I wouldn't be prepared to do myself. And I'd only ask people to do what they were comfortable to do, right? And there will be some people who will take direct action pretty far, and there will be other people who will feel direct action is enough to give out a leaflet. And whatever people want to do, that's fine by me. That's up to them.
Thank you. Right? Thanks very much indeed for that. Duncan Smith is showing a really good talent for setting up my next question with each of his answers, actually. This one came from the STUC workshop, There Is a Better Way workshop. And it's this: should unions and the STUC be linking up with UK Uncut to target Starbucks, Amazon, and other companies with interesting fiscal policies? And also, should they be making the joining of the union part of the campaign in targeting those organisations. What do people think about that? Anybody want to come in on that?
I think part of the reason that that point came up was the disparity in the sectoral trade unionisation at the moment is quite wide. In the public sector, we have 50 to 60%. The private sector, as far as I'm aware, is about 14%, and the voluntary sector is about 21%. So there's a view on that. I think there's a belief that some of these companies won't actually change till their workforce changes. Why are we only asking for a kind of change on a taxation or a legal level? And why are unions and the STUC and the TUC not concentrating more of efforts on actually trade unionising these workplaces?
Okay. What is stopping the unions from being able to organise in these sorts of workplaces?
I think there's still a problem with the trade unions, and that's with protectionism. In the 1990s, I can remember Bill Spears, and in the 2000s, trying to get the electronics sector, Silicon Valley, organised. And what stopped it at that time was that the 2 or 3 trade unions that could organise in that sector couldn't agree which of them would lead on the organisation. And it's the same in the shops and retail. We've got one of the weakest trade unions, and USDO, who won't let other trade unions who could organise in that sector in, because that's theirs to organise. And we have to break that down. I'm a great admirer of the IWW, the Wobblies, and one big union, and actually I'm in Unite, which was the same principal idea, a general workers' union that anybody can be in and can organise anybody. And we should get rid of these distinctions between workers and say the union's there for whoever wants to join, and let us go into sectors and do it and do the organising, because what is preventing that at the moment is stopping us reaching a new generation of workers. And you look round this room, and I hate to tell you, but there's a hell of a lot of us in here are over 50, and there's a hell of a lot of workers who are under 30, and we need to get them. Otherwise, when we die, there will be no generation to carry on this struggle. So we need to open it up, and we need to get rid of these distinctions. I know the STUC can't do that on its own, but we need to start carrying that message into our unions, that this can't go on where one union can prevent other unions for doing the organising it needs to do.
On one level, I agree completely in terms of the sectarian unionism, sort of brought up in a AUEW household where I, for years, thought that GMB was greedy, mad and blind, T&G was treacherous and greedy. However, we also need to add to that one of the reasons that that trade unionism has been weakened, but it's 2 reasons. First is Labour Party wasn't the Labour Party and did diddly squat to get rid of the Thatcherite campaign against the unions. But also, in terms of the change in employment practices, the increasing numbers of temporary, short-term, sort of tenure-free employment on wages which which don't leave the space to stump up for unions. So it puts a responsibility on unions to act in the interests of people who aren't within unions as well, and we see sort of work in terms of the support that many unions have given to UAF, but it's a broader burden for narrower shoulders than we've had in the past.
Thank you. There was a hand up over here. Yeah.
Keith Kivlahan, USDO.
We found you out.
The previous speaker there referring to people, when a trade union will defend their interests, we're defending people on 0-hour contracts and things. If you're in a shop, you've got to go with the majority. I advise people, young people as well, join the trade union. 2.5 more times likely to keep their job when anything goes Pete Tong. It's private sector, and to organise in private sector, I know it's really good because everything's kind of laid on a plate for you in the public sector, and that's no putting them down in any way. We try to drag ourselves up to their level and defending their interests as well. There is a growing change, and personally speaking in my own union as well. We have a younger crew coming through with more ideas for getting out into the community, which is why I'm here, and servicing the community as well. But at the end of the day, we have older members in there who look upon the union basically servicing their needs in relation to their workforce. But some of us are trying. Thank you.